everyone, and welcome to this presentation about texts, about literature and about drama. My name is Ipollo Anderson and I teach English at the Business High School at the North of Copenhagen in Hillerød. And I have divided this presentation into two parts. The first part will be about texts and literature in general, what it is. In the second part I'm going to go a bit deeper into some techniques that are used in literature and more specifically in drama. But let's get started. Texts you can divide into four groups, four categories. They can either be informative, descriptive, instructive or persuasive. And I'm going to take them one by one and go and explain them. Informative texts advise or tell you about something. It might be such a thing as a newspaper article, which can give you information about a health issue, such as giving up smoking, which is a very good idea, by the way. It could also be a website that gives you information about a movie, a band, or something that you're interested in. And it could also be a handout from school about a study trip you're going on, and it will give you details and information about this study trip. So informative texts inform you about something. The next category are the descriptive texts. Descriptive texts want you to picture what they're describing, and a novel, for instance, might want you to imagine the characters and see them in your mind. A travel book will want you to see the country it is describing. So novels, short stories, plays, all these things generally fit in the category of descriptive texts. Such descriptive texts, they usually make use of adjectives and adverbs. They use comparisons to help you picture what it's trying to describe. And it will employ your five senses: how it feels, how it smells, how it looks, how it sounds, and how it tastes. The next category are the instructive texts. They instruct you or tell you how to do something. For instance, a recipe. A recipe wants to instruct you how to cook something or bake a loaf of bread. You can also have a leaflet that comes with a piece of furniture that wants to tell you how to put it together or take care of it. From IKEA, you know, for instance. Instructive texts are written as though the reader is being spoken to. We don't normally use the word you in the texts, the instructive texts, but you're being spoken to. The language is direct, and unnecessary words are left out. The word must or must not are often used. You can have diagrams or pictures that are used to help you understanding the message. Persuasive texts want you to do something. And as you can see, there's this ad here from Heinz, tomato ketchup, a very old ad. And this ad wants you to buy something. It's trying to persuade you into buying the product. You can also, for instance, write a letter to a friend that you want to go on a holiday with to try to persuade him into going with you. Or you can try and write a letter to get off a parking ticket. So these are examples of persuasive texts. In persuasive texts there will be repeated words, text in capital letters, exclamation marks, rhetorical questions, which are questions where no answer is needed, and they're generally an emotional one-sided argument. They're not really objective texts, they're more subjective, playing with people's emotions. They use humor. Humor as a weapon is actually quite strong when you want to sell something, for instance, persuade people into selling things. So these were the four categories. So let's go into the next big question here, because people ask, is then everything literature? Are every text is every text you can find literature? And when we answer that question, we need to understand that there are actually different definitions of the word literature. And I'm going to give you three. I'm going to mention three definitions, and the last one I'm going to mention is the one that's more generally accepted as the one we use today. But I'm going to mention the other ones as well. The word literature actually comes from the Latin litera, which means a letter, and so if you have you can have a broad definition that is then that it's just a written word with letters in it. Something with letters in it would then, according to this broad definition, be literature. And actually we can have an even broader definition, because the word litera, which means letter, but it also means a symbol. And a sculpture could then also be literature, since a sculpture could be a symbol. These two definitions, broad definitions, are however not very much used or accepted. People generally tend to talk about literature with a more narrow definition. And the more narrow and most widely accepted definition is that it's creative writing of recognized artistic value. I'm just going to repeat that because it's important. Creative writing of recognized artistic value. So this means that when we talk about literature and what it is this really literature, then it needs to be creative, and it needs to be in writing, letters in a book, for instance, and it needs to be recognized by people as something that has some value within the arts. Creative writing of recognized artistic value. And that means that we normally have to make a distinction between literature and more ordinary pieces of text. So, for instance, an ad is not literature. Literature. There are three big groups of literature: poetry, prose, and drama. Poetry or poems, they often have a specific formal structure with verse, metaphors, meter, syllables, and rhythm. Maybe there's rhyme and alliteration, such as Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. That would be alliteration. Or Tigers took title today. You can see the repetition of letters. That would be alliteration. But then again, poetry sometimes is more free. It has free verse, and then it kind of does not have a specific formal structure always, but normally does have a specific formal structure. Prose then does not have any specific formal structure, and many things such as essays, novels, articles, philosophy fit in this group of prose. Actually, if we take poetry and prose, there are examples of mixtures. For instance, the Icelandic prose sagas from the 11th century, they bridge early poetry with early prose. So sometimes you actually have a mixture there. Drama then. Drama is generally dialogue, right, between characters. And when drama is written, it generally aims at theatre performances rather than reading. For instance, Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote his plays such as Romeo and Juliet, King Lear, in order for them to be performed on stage. However, we do read Shakespeare as well, and Shakespeare's plays are generally viewed as top literature. However, it's not only meant for the stage. Today, drama is also, we have drama on TV, in the movies. And a funny example was that in 1933, before they had television, people used to listen to the radio, and there was this 1931 radio drama play that was called War of the Worlds, which was about aliens invading the world. And it was very popular, but people sometimes thought that it was, they confused it with the news. So because it was on the radio, and normally you had news on the radio, and people thought that oh my God, we're being invaded by aliens, and people ran screaming into the streets, thinking that the world had come to an end. So that's a funny example of how drama sometimes is confused with news. Well, I think that for now I'm going to stop this presentation, and I'll see you in the next section, which will then be about literary techniques, and we're going to go a bit deeper into drama. So thank you for listening, and hope to see you, if you can say that, in the next part.